extended to Swanee River. We will be dealing with this storm tomorrow. It is inevitable. And as the storm continues to lift back into the warmer waters of the Gulf, we will likely see another re-intensification process by early morning, and it could very well continue for about 6 to 10 hours tomorrow before we begin to feel the effects here in the Bay Area. So my advice to you, listen up and believe it this time. There's been a lot of times we've had near misses with George, with a lot of other storms. This one is the real deal. And by tomorrow morning, if you haven't evacuated and you are in an evacuation zone, find somebody to buddy up with away from the beach and out of that flood zone, because we could be looking at something we have not seen ever in the Tampa Bay area. Harsh words, almost dramatic words. Well, when you see what we're looking at tomorrow night, you know what we're talking about. We'll have some more information coming up in a couple of minutes, guys.
Imagine you're a guest and the date is Friday the 13th, 2004 at the Walt Disney World Resort, and you're visiting one of the most famous parks, the Magic Kingdom. The typical Florida sunshine is replaced by wind and rain. While walking towards the Cinderella's castle, you hear an unusual announcement come across the PA. The hurricane, which has been named Charley, is barreling for Florida. It's already caused havoc on both Jamaica and Cuba, but no one knew that this was just the start to a dangerous hurricane season. Soon after Charley, 3 separate hurricanes would rock the United States as well, with Francis, Ivan, and Gian. You decide maybe it's best to enjoy the rest of your day as you can and retreat to the safety of your resort hotel that you are staying at before Hurricane Charley makes landfall in Florida. With Hurricane Ian being similar to Hurricane Charley, I wanted to send my thoughts and prayers to those who had to deal with the hurricane, and hope that you are all safe and well. Today on Nautical Dis, we travel back to a deadly storm that all ships and sailors want to avoid, and how the Walt Disney World Resort handles these storms, batten down the hatches, and close the storm shutters. This is the story of Hurricane Charley. Hurricane Charley started as a tropical wave, which shifted off the west of Africa on August 4th, moving rapidly and becoming very organized over the Atlantic. It continued to develop as it reached the Lesser Antilles, after which it formed into a tropical depression on August 9th and was 115 miles south-southeast of Barbados. The island was at a low threat, however, it further intensified on August 10th. The National Hurricane Center in Miami provided a name to the storm, Charley. August 11th came and it became a Category 1 hurricane, which the storm was 90 miles south of Jamaica. August 12th came, the core of the storm southwest of Jamaica passed at about 40 miles off the coast, after which the storm passed 15 miles northeast of the Grand Caymans. Hurricane Charley reached Category 3 status, becoming a major hurricane, and Cuba was in the sights of the storm. It was estimated by forecasters that Charley produced winds of 105 miles per hour as it hit the south of Cuba. Other analysis after the hurricane showed that the winds were actually 118 miles per hour, and storm surges were up to about 13 feet, which meant this was a major hurricane. These strong winds brought down around 1,500 power lines and blew over 28 large high-tension wire towers. More than half the people in the Havana province did not have power for 12 days after the hurricane. There was no portable water for 4 days. The Cuban government went in to help. Where the storm made landfall, a village had lost about 290 out of 300 houses, which also another 70,000 houses in Havana were either damaged or destroyed. Hotels were damaged and the agricultural industry was shocked by the loss of crops and goods. In total, all damages cost around $923 million. Hurricane Charley wasn't done there. The next landfall would be Florida. The National Hurricane Center released hurricane warnings for the Florida Keys, Cape Sable, and all the way to the mouth of the Suwannee River the day before Charley would make landfall. The rest of the state had a tropical storm warning, and due to the threat, almost 2 million people along the west coast was urged to leave and evacuate. This included 11,000 from the Florida Keys and 380,000 from the Tampa Bay area, which at the time was the largest evacuation in the history of the Pinellas County. However, another 1 million people decided to stay and board up their houses. Power companies mobilized trucks to be prepared for widespread outages. The MacDill Air Force Base limited its staff on base, and the Space Kennedy Center normally had 13,000 personnel, which was only 200 on hand, which secured all the space shuttles. The storm forced cruise lines to reroute and forced railroad services to shut down. Hurricane Charley gained more strength, originally going to be a Category 2, making landfall in the St. Petersburg and Tampa Bay area. The reality is now that it's a Category 4 with 145 mile-per-hour winds, and the National Hurricane Center issued this 2 hours before making landfall, where it would hit Port Charlotte, which many were unprepared for the storm. Charley turned early, striking the near Charlotte Harbor area, and would make its way to Orlando. 6 p.m. came, and steady rain and wind was what the resort had to deal with at the time. It was mentioned that the storm would come around 8 o'clock. At 8:10 p.m., Hurricane Charley came in full force. From one guest account, the lights of downtown Disney were on, giving you a look at the rapid rain and wind. At around 9 p.m., the eye of the storm passed over and the weather settled down somewhat. At 10 p.m., the wind started to pass and blow and shift in a different direction onto the resort. Midnight came, and Charley would have passed through Orlando and the Walt Disney World Resort. The following day would show some of the damage left behind. Parks opened later the following day. Golf courses and water parks were closed. From accounts of a guest, the drive to Epcot had debris all over, and at Epcot there were many trees down. Many cast members were not able to report to work, and Spaceship Earth was closed. At the MGM Studios, aka Hollywood Studios, trees were down all around the Sorcerer Mickey. Another thing that wasn't working as well was the electronic tip board for guests, and the mermaid from Splash was broken off as well. Other than that, there were small things, and the park survived the storm quite well. Hurricane Charley left Florida in shambles. Over Key West, the winds were moderate from 48 to 60 miles per hour. Trees were knocked over as well as power lines and unreinforced signs. When the storm reached Captiva Island, the winds were 150 miles, with storm surges of 6.5 feet. Other affected areas was Gasparilla Island, Arcadia, Hardy County, Sarasota, Charlotte, Lee, and Collier counties. These counties were face-to-face with Charley's eye wall. During this, Lee County saw an 8-foot storm surge. These areas saw the most damage. Charlotte County had it worse, with 80% of the buildings being damaged. Other areas like Fort Myers, only 25 miles from where Hurricane Charley made landfall, only saw wind speeds of 61 miles per hour with gusts of 71 miles per hour. In South Florida, Charley produced several tornadoes, which included an F2 that hit Clewiston. Southwest Florida had also been devastated. Punta Gorda and Port Charlotte were leveled by the storm. The storm even affected eastern parts of Florida. Daytona Beach, New Smyrna Beach, and Port Orange dealt with storm surges when Hurricane Charley passed, and this was just a fraction of the areas that were affected. The damage caused by Hurricane Charley was grave. Sadly, there was 20 indirect fatalities, 9 direct fatalities, and numerous amounts of injuries caused by the storm. Agricultural damages was around $285 million, and property damage was around $5.4 billion. Public schools in some areas that were in the path of the storm were shut down for 2 weeks due to the schools either being damaged or destroyed, which roughly the damages caused $15 million to the schools affected. The storm caused 2 million people to lose their electricity in the state, with some areas not having power restored till weeks later. President George W. Bush would declare Florida a federal disaster area. The U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary gave $11 million in additional aid and other assistance to Florida. Another $10 million to start aid for facilities that needed repair or new supplies. $200,000 would be spent to provide services to senior citizens. And across Florida, 114 food service operations and 8 comfort stations were set up. FEMA opened 4 disaster recovery centers, and another $1 million was given to the DeSoto Memorial Hospital in Acadia and the Osceola Regional Medical Center in Kissimmee. People come together when these violent storms come, and devastate areas. And at the Walt Disney World Resort, they go above and beyond to ensure the safety of the guests at the resort. And cast members make the ride out of a hurricane a little more magical. And after the storm, Disney released a pin. It features Mickey holding the sorcerer's hat, holding the wind inside of it. And on the pin it says, "Nothing can stop us from delivering the magic, not even Hurricane, Charley, Francis, or Janine." I feel this pin also works for the rest of Florida. The people who went and started the healing and reconstruction of the state. The people who made sure the power was still available for residents. And all the first responders to make sure everyone followed the precautions and kept everyone safe as well. And with every passing hurricane season, one thing is for certain. Florida, nothing can stop you, not even the hurricanes. Hello everyone, and thank you again for watching this video. If you like this video, please like and subscribe for more that is coming up soon. If you like anything that's nautical and Disney as well, you'll definitely want to stay tuned.